Good day, everyone. This is Group 6, and today we will discuss one of the contemporary issues in our society, the plastic pollution. The history of plastic dates back in the 19th century, wherein natural items like amber, horn, and tortoiseshell were molded into different products like comb and utensils. However, due to industrialization and higher demand from consumers, scientists have come up with synthetic plastics. This is also a way to prevent extinction of animals, which at that time are sources of natural plastics. Synthetic plastics are cheap and convenient. It can be molded into a multitude of shapes, colors, and sizes. It is lightweight, strong, and malleable. It is durable, water repellent, and can withstand UV rays. Plastic has become so pervasive in our society that it's difficult to imagine life without it. Plastic wares are seen in our homes, from decorations, ornaments, cooking utensils, and also to our appliances and gadgets. Now that making synthetic plastics are cheap and convenient, we have somehow taken advantage of it without thinking about the consequences. We use plastic bags and bottles for everything from water bottles to bread bags to beauty products. And then, when we're done using them, we throw them away, where they end up in landfills or on our beaches, rivers, and oceans. We're polluting our environment with plastic waste that will take centuries to decompose. And that's when our problem with plastics began. Now, let us talk about the statistics on plastic pollution. In the global setting, there are now 5.25 trillion macro and micro pieces of plastic in our ocean and 46,000 pieces in every square mile of ocean, weighing up to 269,000 tons. Furthermore, the world produces 381 million tons of plastic waste yearly, which is set to double by 2034. Of these 381 million tons, around 8 million pieces of plastic end up in our oceans every day. Plastic packaging is the biggest contributor, resulting in 80 million tons of waste yearly from the US alone. Two-thirds of plastic pollution comes from litter being washed down from rivers and drains, left on beaches, or dropped in towns or cities. The biggest polluting country in the world is China. It has also been said that Indonesia, the Philippines, Vietnam, Sri Lanka, and Egypt are included in the top 10 worst offenders. According to Costandi, India and China are the only countries to account for over 10 million tons of mismanaged plastic waste, although that could partly be driven by their sheer population numbers.
Over the past few years, plastic pollution has become one of the Philippines' most pressing environmental concerns. In the country, over 2.7 million tons of plastic waste are generated annually, of which only about 2% are recyclable. A report from Our World in Data in 2021 revealed that 20% of the plastic waste produced by the country annually ends up in the sea. The country is home to 7 of the world's 10 largest plastic-emitting rivers, with Pasig River contributing the most at 6.43%. Hence, it is no surprise that the Philippines is among the largest contributors of plastic waste to the oceans, accounting for more than one-third or 36% of ocean plastic pollution. Plastic pollution poses an enormous threat not only to the environment but also to all living organisms. Other forms of environmental pollution, such as water pollution, can be attributed to plastic waste. It has been found that microplastics are present in all bodies of water, including rivers, seas, and oceans. An estimated 50 to 75 trillion pieces of plastics and microplastics are present in the ocean, which accounts for 80% of its waste. These plastics contain toxic chemicals harmful to marine life and ecosystems. Several dead animals have been found to have ingested plastics as they had mistaken it for food, resulting in external and internal injuries. Additionally, some are trapped in plastic waste, resulting in death by suffocation and starvation. Plastic waste is linked to land pollution. Millions of tons of plastics are disposed of in landfills every year. Additionally, there are those that have been scattered across different land areas, degrading soil quality with toxic chemicals and affecting vegetation. The plastics and the contaminants they carry are exposed to organisms in the area, giving rise to diseases and upsetting the land ecosystems. Globally, millions of tons of plastics are produced each year, most of which is not recycled. There is a correlation between plastic pollution and environmental problems such as air, water, and land pollution, which adversely affect the people. As plastic waste blocks water passage, it has been identified as one of the main causes of flooding. It is also imperative to note that plastics can have adverse effects on health as they can cause skin diseases, respiratory problems, and other health concerns. Also, dump sites become the breeding ground for mice, cockroaches, and flies, which transmit diseases. Additionally, plastic waste affects the livelihood of the people, such as fishermen and farmers.
Next is the emergence of microplastics. Microplastics are tiny particles less than 5 millimeters or 0.2 inches in diameter, which is smaller than a standard pearl used in jewelry. These microplastics result from commercial product development, microfibers shed from clothing and other textiles, such as fishing nets, and the breakdown of larger plastics. As a pollutant, microplastics can be harmful to living things. When we take a closer look at the smallest fragments of plastic that are discarded into natural environments such as aquatic and marine systems, it becomes obvious that the scope of this threat is far wider than most of us realize, and that it impacts wildlife and human health alike. Researchers have hypothesized that human exposure to microplastics could lead to oxidative stress, possible DNA damage, and inflammation, among other health problems. Particularly, when inflammation becomes chronic, this can pave the way to very serious health problems. Experiments also show that the microplastics damage aquatic creatures as well as turtles and birds. If eaten, they block digestive tracts, diminish the urge to eat, and alter feeding behavior, all of which reduce growth and reproductive output. Their stomachs are also stuffed with plastic that some species would starve and die. Some of the measures that have been continuously practiced globally to control plastic pollution include the 4 Rs, or the reduce, reuse, recycle, and recovery. Solid waste management, avoiding single-use plastics, identifying pollution hotspots and raising awareness campaigns, advocating consumer action, and etc. Additionally, countries from around the world took a major step toward ending plastic waste. Just in March 2022, the United Nations Environment Assembly passed a resolution entitled End Plastic Pollution that sets out a diplomatic framework and timeline for UN members to negotiate and develop an agreement to prevent and reduce global plastic waste. The Philippine government has also been taking initiatives to address the country's plastic waste problem. In fact, there is a law that specifically regulates the use of plastic, known as the Republic Act of 9003 or the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act of 2000, which mandates that all open dump sites must be converted into sanitary landfills by 2004, 4 years after the law was passed. The House of Representatives also approved a bill institutionalizing the practice of extended producer responsibility on plastic products, or known as the House Bill No. 10696, the Extended Producer Responsibility Bill of 2022. The EPR is defined by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development as the policy approach that refers to the responsibility of producers, such as companies and manufacturers, in the post-consumer stage, or the disposal and treatment of the life cycle of a product. This can inspire companies to create more environmentally friendly and sustainable packaging and reduce the production of sachet and other single-use plastics. This bill has not been passed as law yet.
Are these measures effective? In the global context, the 4 Rs are effective ways to help us consider the items that we buy, use, and dispose of. It helps us consider a number of important aspects related to our consumption. It serves us as a reminder of how we can make a difference with these 4 steps. In fact, a number of people are trying to practice these nowadays, and if only we can all embody these 4 steps, then these measures will definitely end plastic pollution. On the other hand, in the national context, the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act has helped and pushed many households and businesses to have systematic, comprehensive, and ecological waste management. The functional elements of solid waste management are on-site storage, processing and handling, collection, transfer and transport, resource recovery, and final disposal. In fact, it also relates to the 4 Rs. Study shows that while failure was associated with government collection in most cases, private sector involvement was more effective but cost incentive, and that community participation in waste management reduced the amount of solid waste found in a community and led to positive achievements. Despite the effectiveness and the practice of a number of people in waste management, it is still not efficient enough to solve the problem. Some of the reasons why the waste management is still insufficient includes lack of public awareness, refusal to learn about compliance, insufficient investment in waste management, and lack of proper team machinery. Take, for example, the Ecological Waste Management. This act provides the necessary policy framework, institutional mechanisms, and mandate to the local government units, LGUs, to achieve 25% waste reduction through establishing an integrated solid waste management plans based on the 3 Rs: reduce, reuse, and recycle. However, not all LGUs are well funded to support the whole operation and have close monitoring. Therefore, in order to achieve its purpose, LGUs must have high level of political commitment, development of effective local strategies in collaborative manner, partnership building with other stakeholders, capacity development, adequate financing and incentives, and in-close monitoring and evaluation of performance. There is also a need to properly educate people, because we can't just keep on merely letting people know about what the 4 Rs of waste management are. We also have to let them learn how we can totally practice it, taking responsibility for our actions, and of course, to make them live with the 4 Rs of waste management as a habit.
How can we address plastic pollution using science and technology? Entrepreneurs, scientists, and innovators from all around the world are working to find innovative solutions to the problem of plastic pollution. They're coming up with inventive ways to remove plastic, not just from the ocean but everywhere. The following are some ideas and innovations that try to lessen the pollution caused by plastic. First is the Netherlands-based Great Bubble Barrier. This uses a pipe that has holes in it that is positioned across riverbeds to intercept garbage. The riverbed is where trash is redirected and collected for recycling. This Great Bubble Barrier raises the oxygen content in rivers in a way that it supports aquatic life. Next is the Azure. This device is intended to catch garbage before it is transported by ocean currents to the renowned Galapagos Islands, which are rich in biological diversity. The garbage is also directed on the conveyor belts using a barrier in this innovation. The conveyor belts are also fitted with cameras which take pictures of the waste and then use algorithms to determine the type of plastic contained within. This invention aids officials in determining the most effective way to cut waste at the source. Next is the Waste Shark. This is an autonomous water drone that skims the calm waters of ports, harbors, and marinas and slurps up any floating debris and polluting oils in its route. The system is capable of gathering half a ton of garbage every day, which is then transported back to land for reuse. Next is Fred. This is an early version of a floating robot that will be used to collect marine debris made of plastic. It can accept anything between 10 millimeters and 1 meter in length and employs conveyor belts to hoist debris up out of the water in a roughly catamaran-like design. Last one is Hollow One. This is an innovative machine that separates microplastics from sandy beaches.
Governments are in charge of managing solid waste, which includes preventing and collecting trash, recycling, maintaining storm drains, promoting tourism, maintaining community health, and safeguarding the local environment. Each of these community services is significantly impacted by plastic pollution, which also costs the taxpayers money. It is becoming more and more frequent to see public garbage cans overflowing, making it obvious that current methods are insufficient to stop plastic pollution. Governments should enact legislation limiting the distribution of single-use plastics. They should implement plastic bag bans, restrictions on plastic straws, and bans on EPS or expanded polystyrene foam food containers in order to fulfill their obligation at the lowest possible cost to citizens. They should also impose taxes to discourage the production of use of single-use plastics or provide tax breaks, subsidies, and other financial incentives to promote alternatives to single-use plastic products. Additionally, legislation on single-use plastic items can also include requirements for the product's material composition, usability, recoverability, biodegradability, and compostability. This strategy can encourage consumers to select sustainable items. Last but not the least, governments should put extended producer responsibility or EPR programs in place to guarantee that producers maintain accountability for single-use plastic items over the entire life cycles. Next, we can address the plastic pollution as citizens by disciplining ourselves. Discipline in the use of plastic, since we cannot halt the creation of it, because it is already part of our lives. Minimize the use of it and use alternatives that lessen the plastic waste. Follow our place's regulations and ordinances such as those regarding appropriate disposal and recycling. To conclude, plastic pollution has a negative impact on everyone. We must act now before it is too late. Let us begin with ourselves, then encouraging and educating everyone, spreading the word and taking small steps because it leads to significant changes. That's all, thank you.